aka Crash Lopez, and I'm excited today. I've actually given my YouTube channel a name. Pretty simple. It simply is Adelante, which is Spanish for forward. I constantly want to move forward and not backward. I want to push ahead and work towards a world and a church that I believe Christ would want me to build. Because as I look around, nothing is perfect, but also, this ain't it. Not to overextend or be overly critical, but in my own heart, I never want to be complacent and think I have arrived. I want to always push for a better way to comport myself in this world. And I like to push. I like to challenge people. We can't always live our life being comfortable. And I like having people push back on me. The reality is when you're challenging people to a higher ideal, it can get a little messy. And so I'm reminded of a portion of Matthew where Jesus sends out his disciples to their countrymen. Matthew records a number of healings taking place. And in one of these instances, the religious establishment, the religious teachers of the time, the religious college, they see this happening with their own eyes, that Jesus is bringing healing, and they attribute it to demonic forces at work. And also taking place, Jesus himself is lamenting that there aren't enough people around to spread the good news of the kingdom. And so he says, pray to God to provide people. And then he sends out his 12 disciples. But he sends them out with a warning. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves. Be on guard. And we have to be on guard now more than ever before. There is a wave of violence that is deeply embedded in our social fabric. Violence in all its forms has always been an ugly stain upon mankind. And some would argue, well, that maybe we do live in the least violent times globally. But when I look around, I can see the anger that continues to build up. I can see the resentment, the enmity. There is this pull that is constantly moving. The prevalence of our online engagement with the world around us continues to impact us in ways that sure are beneficial. Who doesn't love ordering something from Amazon and getting it in 2 days, right? Or maybe the next day. And so there are beneficial aspects to it, but more often than not, we are affected in ways that are not healthy, and it's not readily observable. The irony of the avenue in which I am delivering this message is not lost on me. Still, in our perpetually online existence, our impulses are laid bare for the world to see. We can always react to something in real time. And I do see an issue when our unfiltered reactions and our opinions are regarded as a virtue and not something to be tamed. However you want to phrase this, if you really want to look for common concepts, you could say there is a wave, an atmosphere, an environment, a momentum, an undercurrent. I'm going to go a little bit more spiritual and say that there is a spirit of violence that is constantly fed by... Yeah, we're going to jump cut that because I liked the rhythm I was rolling with and I don't want to lose that. And here's where I was at. However you want to categorize it, if you want to look for something a little bit less religious, a little bit more secular. You might say that there is an atmosphere, an environment, a momentum, an undercurrent that is becoming more overt. I'm going to take it into spiritual terms. And I'm going to say that there is a spirit of violence that is constantly fed by influential forces. And these forces work to keep people in tension with one another. Some of these voices are subtle. They sound close to what we think is right. And so it puts us at ease. And then there are other voices that are completely indulgent in their aims to create chaos among different people. So what do we, as a people of faith, as followers of Jesus, as Christians, do in these chaotic times? What's our motivation? Do we really want to live like Jesus? Or do we want to project some archetype of take no prisoners warrior mentality that cares less about people and more about showing, and I'm going to use quote, strength, maybe overcompensating for some of our insecurities? I can be a warrior, but if that obsession causes me to depart from my mission, then it's a cancer. So the first thing that we really have to do is we have to decide in our hearts that anger and violence are not two sides of the same coin. As referenced in Ephesians, we should not use anger as a cause for sin, as a cause to bring suffering upon others. Rather, we must use our words and our gospel message to speak life to those around us, especially to those outside the church. Second, we have to be aware of when violence is being used to drive us to unhealthy outcomes, especially emotional and rhetorical ways of engaging with this world. Rather than call down fire on our enemies, like in the Gospel of Luke, we should follow the example of Jesus and rebuke those who would take advantage of tragedies, of differences, and people's convictions to stir up violence against others. And remember, I'm not always talking about physical violence. Lastly, we need to return to the Gospels as a transformative compass for how to best live in this world. A compass does not tell us every step that we should take, but rather points us in the right direction of what we're working or walking towards. Referencing the Apostle Paul, who wrote a fair amount of the New Testament that we hold as sacred scripture, when speaking to the Corinthian church, he said, "Follow me as I follow Christ." God has revealed himself through the written word, and the greatest revelation remains the crucified and risen Jesus. His words, his life, his story. These are unsteady times, and even those who consider themselves part of the same spiritual family may find tension with those they share spiritual kinship with. My prayer is not that we would engage in unhealthy conflict with the world around us or with each other, but rather we would redirect the chaotic energy of these uncertain times so that it comes into contact with the life-giving kingdom led by the Prince of Peace. Let us steady point upwards to what he has done. And in my context, for my American brethren, we can do better. We need to do better. We need to be Nathans in this world, not Pashurs. Crash Lopez out. Thank you.